Previous chapter, we heard all about the sins of Chofni and Pinchas, the sons of Eli, abuse of power, as a contrast to where we're going to start today. Vahanar Shmuel, chapter 3, verse 1, Misharetz Adonai lefnei Eli, udvar Adonai yakar, bayamim ein chazon nifratz. The young man Shmuel, as opposed to these others, he was in the service of God under Eli. But in those days, the word of God was rare. Prophecy was not widespread. Something that we'll see later on in this book and in future books is that there are schools of prophecy. But this is a time where prophecy, there's very little prophecy. There's not much because the people, unfortunately, are not acting in a very proper fashion. Leaders, we just talked about Eli's sons overstating their, abuse of power, and Eli not controlling them properly. And so we're saying there's not much prophecy, but we're going to have Shmuel. And with Shmuel, there are going to be lots of prophets because he's a great leader. Vayhi bayomahu. And one day, Be'eli shochev b'mkomo, Eli was asleep in his usual place. Be'enav hechalu chehot lo yuchal lerot. We mentioned in the previous chapter that Eli was zakein ma'od, that he was very old. And here we're told that his eyes have begun to atrophy. He could barely see. V'ner Elohim terem yichbad. The lamp of God had not yet gone out. U'Shmuel shochev. And Shmuel was sleeping. Beheichal Adonai asher sham aron Elohim. In the temple of God where the ark of God was. And seems that these words, that the lamp of God had not yet gone out, is a little bit of a metaphor here, right? It means there's still some, literally it means that the candle has not fully extinguished. There's still a little light, but more so, right? The candle is there's very little oil left. It's almost going to go out. That's how bad things are in society. That's how bad things are with the sons of Eli, with Eli not controlling them, with all of the damage that's being done in this temple. And so there's only a little bit of oil left in the lamp, only a little bit of light left in this temple. Vayikra Adonai el Shmuel vayomer hineni. God called out to Shmuel and he answered, Hineni, here I am, I'm coming. We've seen this with Moshe, with Avraham. Vayaratz el Eli, and he ran to Eli. Vayomer hineni ki karatali, and he comes to Eli and he says, "Here I am. You called me. What can I do?" We see his alacrity to help this elderly man, his master, his teacher. Vayomer, Eli says back to him, "Lo karati shuv shcha vayelech vayishkav." He said, "You're hearing noises. I never called you. Just go back to sleep." Vayosef Adonai kra od Shmuel, and God again called out to Shmuel. And he comes to Eli and he says, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli says to him, "Go back to sleep." Now, why did Shmuel not understand what was happening? Verse 7, Shmuel terem yadat Adonai v'terem yigale elav dvar Adonai. Shmuel had not yet experienced God. The word of God, prophecy, had not yet been revealed to him. Vayosef Adonai kra Shmuel bashlishit. God a third time calls out to Shmuel. Vayakam vayelech el Eli v'amer hineni ki karati li. Vayiden Eli ki Adonai korea lanar. And the third time he comes to him and he says, "You called me, my master. You called me, Eli. What can I do?" Eli understands that it is God who is calling to the young man. And again, here, Eli didn't pick up on the fact that Chana was somebody who was praying sincerely. And here too, Eli does not pick up on the fact that Shmuel is getting prophecy until after the 3 times. Shmuel has an excuse. This is the first time, but Eli should have realized this earlier, to showing his sort of, he's distant, he's elderly, doesn't know what's going on. Vayavo Adonai vaytyatzei vayikra kipam b'fam Shmuel vayomer Shmuel daber ki shomea avdecha. God calls out and Shmuel says, "Speak, for your servant is listening." Vayomer Adonai Shmuel. God says to Israel, to Shmuel, "I'm going to do something in Israel that when people hear it, both their ears will tingle." This is not tingling happily out of joy. This is that it will be like hit by thunder, hit by lightning. Vayomahu akim el Eli et kol asher dibarti el beito hachel v'chale. And that day, I'm going to fulfill everything that I said to Eli about his house from beginning to end. Right? You think Eli, this is the time of the shoftim. Eli is the shofet. I will declare justice, judgment against him for all time. Because his sons committed sacrilege the way that they were acting, and he did not rebuke them. Now we see he did rebuke them, but he didn't do enough. This is bad, my children. This is bad. If you sin against God, that's really bad. If you sin against man, that's okay. God can pardon you. That was not a true chiding. He didn't excoriate them. He didn't tell them what they needed to hear. Therefore, I swore concerning the house of Eli that they will never get kapara, they will never get atonement by sacrifice or offering. By Shkav Shmuel at a boka. Shmuel sleeps until the morning. And the doors of the Heichal are opened up. Right? It's morning, they open the door, the lights come in. But Shmuel obviously doesn't want to tell Eli what happened. Vayikra Eli el Shmuel, vayomer Shmuel b'ni, vayomer hineni. And Eli calls Shmuel and he says, Shmuel, my son. And Shmuel says, yes, here I am. Vayomer ma davar shedavar elecha al na techachein mimeni koyas elecha Elohim b'chol Yosef im techachein mimeni davar mikol davar shediber elecha. It may be that Eli is distant from prophecy at this point. God is obviously upset at him, and therefore Eli wants to hear what the prophecy is. Tell me every last thing that God said to you. Vayaged lo Shmuel et kol advarim v'lo kichein mimenu vayomer Adonai hu hatov be'einav ya'aseh. And when Eli heard about the prophecy, about the doom of his family, he said, God is right. Whatever God does is just. We're continuing in verse 19. Shmuel grew up and God was with him. And everything that Shmuel predicted, all of the prophecies that he would get, everything that he said, they all came to pass. And all of Israel, from the north Dan to the south Beersheba, knew that Shmuel was a trustworthy prophet of God. He was the person to go to. Don't go to Eli, go to Shmuel. Vayasef Adonai lehera'o v'shilo ki nigla Adonai al Shmuel b'shilo b'dvar Adonai. As opposed to earlier where it said prophecy was rare. It was not something that was common. The light of God had almost gone out, that candle. Now we're told that God was once again in Shiloh, almost continuously, because he was appearing not to the Kohen, the Shofet, the guy who was the Navi, not to Eli, but to Shmuel. And coming back to something, and this is one of the great themes of this chapter, which we talked about a couple of times, is the idea, or these chapters, the outsider. The people who are in power, Eli and his sons are corrupt. The father's not doing anything about it. We have this woman, Chana, she's an outsider. She has different ideas. She has different thoughts. She has sincerity to God. She's willing to give. God, if you give me this thing, I'll give it right back to you. I don't need my child. And so that child who comes from a place of selflessness, who comes from a place of hope, and not from a place of privilege, not from a place of being the son of the leader of the Jewish people and taking that and using it to your advantage, it is her son that has become the light unto Israel. He's the one who God is revealing. He's the one that is getting greater and greater and will ultimately be the one to lead the Jewish people for many, many years.